CNN, which we'll come to later, to initially draw a bounding box, a rectangular bounding box around each vertebra. Okay. After that, we crop that region and resize the image into a 32 by 32 size. In this work, we have manually cropped the vertebrae. So after that, we do what we call the image enhancement. We go for contrast stretching as well as Clahe, which is contrast limited adaptive histogram equalization. Once we do that, we extract certain features out of this cropped and resized image. The features which we use are HOG, GIST, and SIFT. We'll come to them in more detail later. So during the training phase, we have a linear regression model which is fed with the labeled boundary coordinates of the vertebra, each of the vertebra, and it learns the regression model during the training phase. Later on, during the testing phase, what you do is that we extract these features from the enhanced, cropped, and resized image and pass it to the regressor. So it will give you the regression boundary. Here, what we do is that we take 100 points around the boundary of each vertebra. That's what you do, almost equally spaced on the perimeter of the vertebra. So, okay. So once this boundary is obtained, we map it back onto the original sagittal image. Okay. Then we label them. Labeling means whether it's cervical 1, cervical 2, cervical 3, etc., or thoracic 1, 2, 3, etc., up to 12, or lumbar L1, L2, L3, L4, etc., up to L5. Okay. We do labeling only for the cervical, thoracic, and the lumbar regions. And actually, we discard the C1, only the remaining 23 vertebra we try to identify, regress the boundaries, and label it. So vertebrae in the CT images in sagittal plane are cropped manually and resized. Contrast stretching and Clahe is performed to enhance the cropped vertebra images, and they extract, and then we extract the features. Okay, the training process learns a highly nonlinear boundary regression model. The testing process directly predicts the holistic boundary in the test image based on the learned regression model. Boundary in this framework is represented by the coordinates of a set of points. We go for 100 points uniformly placed around the perimeter of around the border of the vertebra. So boundary representation. Here you have the figure, illustration of point-based boundary representation. Vertebral boundaries are represented by a set of 100 points. So each point has an X and a Y coordinate. First boundary point is selected at the location where the left boundary crosses the horizontal center line. Rest of the points are evenly sampled boundary points in clockwise direction. So we basically start here where the first boundary point is selected. First boundary point is selected at the location where the left boundary crosses the horizontal center. Then we move in the clockwise direction and find 100 points. Okay, so we use in MATLAB, we can use a function called roly-poly. So for finding, drawing a polygon on the image. So first we manually find these boundary points using this particular function. That polygon may have less than 100 or more than 100 points, doesn't matter. Once you have that polygon, we uniformly, and once we find out the actual perimeter of the polygon, we uniformly divide it into 100 points. Okay, that's how we get the ground truth of the boundaries. Now the pre-processing. In pre-processing, each vertebra is cropped and resized, and we resize it into the 32 by 32 image. Cropping is done manually in this work. Later on, we'll have to use some bounding box segment detection algorithm like YOLO or SSD to automate that process, and then that region can be cropped and resized into the 32 by 32 image. So we apply contrast stretching and Clahe for image enhancement. After the pre-processing stage, features are extracted from the cropped image. So we use the following three methods to extract image features. First is a texture-based feature, which is SIFT. It captures the texture information in images by computing a histogram of oriented gradients in image blocks. It is a localized image descriptor, which is invariant to scale and affine transformation. The next feature is a semantic context-based, which is called GIST. It summarizes an image's semantic context by computing its response to a Gabor filter bank. The next feature of interest is the HOG, which is a shape-based feature. HOG captures the main shape of the anatomic structure in an image based on the occurrences of gradient orientation in localized portions of the image. So in this work, the HOG features, there are 144 in number. So it's a feature vector with 145 elements. The GIST is a vector with 512 elements, and the SIFT is actually a feature vector with 128 elements. So when we concatenate these features, it will have a total length of 784 elements. It will be a vector of dimension 784. Now I come to the histogram of oriented gradients. The local object appearance and shape within an image can be described by the distribution of intensity gradients or edge directions. The image is divided into small connected regions called cells, and a histogram of gradient directions is compiled for each cell. The descriptor is the concatenation of these histograms. Now, computation of histogram of oriented gradients by HOG by global image normalization, computing the gradient image in horizontal and vertical directions, computing gradient histograms, normalizing across blocks, and flattening it into a feature vector. I won't get into the finer mathematical details, but it's a general overview. Now, SIFT features, scale invariant feature transform. It is a technique for detecting salient, stable feature points in an image. For every such point, it also provides a set of features that characterize or describe a small image region around the point. Therefore, SIFT provides features characterizing a salient point that remain invariant to changes in scale or rotation. An outline of the steps of the SIFT algorithm: determine approximate location and scale of salient feature points, also called key points. Refine the location and scale. Determine orientations for each key point. Determine descriptors for each key point. Now coming to GIST. The GIST descriptor focuses on the shape of scene itself, on the relationship between the outlines of the surfaces and their properties, and ignores the local objects in the scene and their relationships. The representation of the structure of the scene, termed spatial envelope, is defined by its 5 perceptual properties: naturalness, openness, roughness, expansion, and ruggedness, which are meaningful to human observers. Given an input image, a gist descriptor is computed by convert the image with 32 Gabor filters at 4 scales, 8 orientations, producing 32 feature maps of the same size of the input image. Divide each feature map into 16 regions by a 4x4 grid, and then average the feature values within each region. Now concatenate the 16 average values of all 32 feature maps, resulting in 16 into 32 is equal to 512 gist descriptor. Intuitively, this summarizes the gradient information, scales, and orientations for different parts of the image, which provides a rough description or the gist of the scene. Now that we have gone through the features of interest which we are extracting, we go on to the regression model. In this work, we have used boundary regression and using multidimensional support vector regression, MSVR. So the regression model is trained using 100 boundary coordinates. During testing, learned model will directly predict 100 boundary coordinates of each of the vertebrae. So basically, we have to find a mapping from the feature vector of dimension 784, which contains HOG, GIST, and SIFT. From this feature vector, we have to map it into a 100 boundary coordinates. Okay, so 100 boundary coordinates. Each coordinate has an x and y coordinate. Each boundary point has an x and y coordinate. So it has to be regressed into 200 dimensional vector. The first point being x1, y1, the next being x2, y2, then x3, y3, and so on. Okay, so this is the problem which we have to solve. Given an image, a cropped, resized image, we have to extract these features, and we have to have a nonlinear map from these features to the boundary points. That's the goal. So, need for MSVR, the multidimensional regression estimation problem arises when the dependent variable is a vector instead of a scalar quantity. Typical regression problems are ones in which the output is just a real number, okay, real value. So multidimensional regression estimation, we have a vector of real values. In our case, a 200 element vector. The multidimensional regression problem can be divided into k one-dimensional SVR problems. K in our case is 200. However, this method has the drawback that it will assign penalty unequally. The multidimensional SVR or MSVR has a hyperspherical intensity zone. It will equally treat every sample, being them penalized by the same factor if they lie outside the insensitive zone. So a little bit of math behind this multidimensional support vector regressor, MSVR. So MSVR has the ability to model a highly nonlinear mapping function. So the objective of the MSVR is to learn a kernel regressor. Y is equal to W is a matrix, into phi x. Phi x is a vector which y is a non-vector, which is a function of the feature vector x. Okay, it might be a non-linear map into a higher dimensional space. So y is the regression which we had to figure out is y is equal to w into phi x plus b. That means we had to basically compute w and b. Here phi is a mapping from Rm to RH. M is what? The dimension of the feature vector, which is 784. And H is a very high dimensional very large number, which is a high dimensional space, Euclidean space. So this phi is a nonlinear transformation to a higher h-dimensional vector space. X is the element of Rm, is the m-dimensional image feature input, that is M is 784, and Y is an element of RQ, the q-dimensional Euclidean space, where Q is the q-dimensional boundary coordinate output. Since we have 100 boundary points, and each boundary point is represented by an x and a y coordinate, Q has a value 200. Okay. So what's the size of W? W is actually a Q by H matrix. Q by H matrix. And B is a vector which is a q-dimensional vector. Okay. Goal is to learn the optimal parameters W is equal to, which has columns W1, W2, etc. up to WQ, the transpose of that. Okay. That is what W is. W transpose has columns W1, W2, etc. up to WQ, where each of the WI has dimension H, and B is equal to, has components B1, B2, etc. up to BQ. They are all real numbers, the transpose of that. From the label training set, Xi, Yi, I is equal to 1 to n. So in the training set, we have n data points. Okay. So for each I is equal to 1 to n, Xi is a feature vector of dimension 784, and Yi is the corresponding target regressed output, which has a dimension of 200. So we are given a training set of n number of Xi, Yi pairs, and from there we have to compute the optimal W and B. So the optimization problem is formulated as given here. Minimize over all W and B the quantity LP WB, which is minimize over all WB the quantity which comes after that, half times summation j is equal to 1 to q, the L2 norm of Wj the whole squared plus C is some positive real number constant into summation I is equal to 1 to n LUI, where LU is defined as follows. LU is the loss function is equal to 0 when U has a value less than epsilon, and it's equal to U minus epsilon the whole squared, that is U squared minus 2U epsilon plus epsilon squared when U has a value greater than or equal to epsilon. Here UI is equal to the L2 norm of Yi minus W into phi Xi minus B, which is the prediction error. Okay. So this is the optimization problem which we have to solve. We have to find the W and B which minimizes the total loss function LP WB. So the best solution of W can be expressed as a linear combination of the training samples in the transformed feature space based on the representative theorem. Wj is equal to summation I is equal to 1 to n phi Xi into beta Ij. It can be solved by an iterative reweighted least squares algorithm. I will not go into the details of all these things, but this is what we do in order to solve this problem and obtain the MSVR. The q-dimensional output Y for each new input can be computed as Y is equal to summation I is equal to 1 to n beta I transpose phi transpose Xi into phi X plus B optimal, that is summation I is equal to 1 to n beta I transpose into K Xi X plus B optimal. Here the kernel function K Xi X is phi transpose Xi into phi X. Now we use radial basis function RBF as kernel in this work, which is expressed as K of X and X prime. That's X and X prime are two feature vectors. That's equal to e to the power minus L2 norm of X minus X prime the whole squared. Now coming to the labeling part. Before labeling, predicted boundary points will be mapped into the original input image. We will see all of this later, the actual images. Sort the centroids of the vertebrae in ascending order on y coordinates of the centroid. Now it is easy to identify the vertebra. That is, the first one will be the C2, second will be C3, C corresponds to cervical, T corresponds to thoracic, and L corresponds to lumbar. So we usually omit the C1. It's a small vertebra. It's difficult to segment out. So we give the starting one as C2, then the remaining ones, it automatically labels all the remaining ones. Now the data set, experiments demonstrated on the data sets, demonstrated on the data set obtained from the Rajagiri Hospital. Performance evaluations done using two different data sets. First data set consists of only 3 spinal images in sagittal plane in CT modality. Second data set consists of CT full spinal images of 13 adults in sagittal plane. We augment these images by adding noise to it for different standard deviation or variances, white Gaussian noise. Okay. So results and performance evaluation. The figure shows the regression output using MSVR, that is multidimensional support vector regressor, when testing with trained image. When the trained data itself is used as the test image, this is the result which we obtain. Column 1 and 3 shows the input image, the 32 by 32 images, and column 2 and 4 shows predicted boundary, that is the red contour, the predicted by the MSVR. The ground truth, which was manually obtained, is the green contour. So we can see that there's a very close match between the two. That is, the MSVR has trained really well, particularly on the trained data set. Now this figure shows the regression output using MSVR when testing with test image. So column 1 and column 3 shows the input image, that is 32 by 32 dimensional input image, and columns 2 and 4 shows predicted boundary. The red contours are the predicted one, and the ground truth is the green one. So there is, even on the test image, which the MSVR did not see during the training phase, it sort of reasonably, it comes close to that. Okay, the regress values, the predicted boundary comes close to the ground truth. Now the regressed output of MSVR mapped to the original. Figure A is the input image and figure B is the labeled output. So the green colored boundaries are the ground truth and the red ones are the predicted ones. Okay, and for each of these predicted boundaries, we find the centroid and sort it in the ascending order. And then we can label them as C2, C3, if we give the first one as C2, we have to give that. Then the remaining ones, you can automatically find the label C3, C4, C5, C6, C7, and for the cervical region, then for the thoracic region, the 12 ones, and the lumbar regions, the 5 ones. Okay, so 23 vertebrae have been labeled properly. Now, the performance of the regression model is evaluated with 2 parameters. One is the dice similarity index, and the other is the boundary distance metric. Okay, the dice similarity index is computed as follows. It is 2 times the number of pixels or the area of M intersection A. M is the manually segmented region. A is the automatically detected region. Okay, that the region enclosed within the red boundary points. M is the region enclosed within the green or the manually annotated region. Okay, so 2 times M intersection A, the number of pixels in M intersection A divided by the number of pixels in M and plus the number of pixels in A, or the area within the region M and the region A. So what are the range of values which the dissimilarity index can take? So it has a value between 0 and 1. Okay, 0 and 1. When the value is 1, there's a perfect match. There's a perfect match. When the value is 0, M intersection A has an area equal to 0, that is, there's no match. Okay, so the dissimilarity index can take a value between 0 and 1, and if it's a value close to 1, that means the match is really good. The another one metric is the boundary distance. That is, summation QAM is equal to 1 to PA, DQAM divided by 2 PA plus summation QMA is equal to 1 to PM, DQMA divided by 2 PM. So what is DQAM? It is the distance between the pixel QAM on the regress boundary A and the closest pixel in the manually segmented boundary M. Similarly, DQMA is the distance between the pixel QMA on the manually segmented boundary M and closest pixel in the automatically segmented boundary A. PA and PM denotes the total number of boundary points in A and M respectively. In our case, they are both 100, PM and PA. So this is another metric to figure out how to how closely the ground truth and the predicted boundaries, how close they are. Okay, these are 2 metrics for that. Now, performance evaluation of regression segmentation with the first data set. So in the first data set, we had 3 sagittal images. 2 of them we use for training. So there are, out of the 23 vertebrae of 2 original spinal images, we added 18 blurred variants of it. We added white Gaussian noise into that, with standard deviation is equal to 0.05, 0.1, 0.15, etc. up to 0.9 in increments of 0.05. So there were 874 images, okay, for training, vertebrae for training. And for testing, we had the 23 cropped vertebrae of the remaining sagittal image. So while doing the testing, on the original trained data of 874 cropped vertebrae, index was the mean and the plus minus standard deviation, and similarly the boundary distance, mean plus minus standard deviation was 0.95261 plus minus 0.0109 and 0.4305 plus minus 0.0997. So if you look at it, the dissimilarity index is somewhat close to 1, so it's good. And the boundary distance is also a small value, which is also good. Now, when we did the testing on the test data, the 23 cropped vertebrae from the 3rd sagittal image, but the dissimilarity index which we got was 0.9163 plus minus standard deviation of 0.0221, and the boundary distance, the mean and the standard deviation were 0.8726 plus minus 0.2550. So it's slightly worse than the one on the for the trained data, which is naturally expected because the MSVR was trained on the training data, so it regressed very well on the training data, but it regressed reasonably well also on the test data. Now, the performance of MSVR in noisy images. So standard deviation of Gaussian distribution used for blurring the image sigma is 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5. That means with a lot of noise. So this is on the test image. Okay. So DSI dissimilarity index was for standard deviation of 1 was 0.9060 plus minus 0.1207, and the boundary distance was 0.7950 plus minus 0.1963. And for when we had similarly for the other case, when the noise is higher, has higher variance or higher standard deviation, the performance degrades. Okay, so when we have 2 point standard deviation till 2.5, the dissimilarity index is 0.8899 plus minus standard deviation of 0.0338, and the boundary distance is 0.8980 plus minus standard deviation of 0.2450. So some comparative performance of regression in different image enhancement techniques. So here we use enhancement technique uses just the Clahe, just the contrast stretching, and contrast stretching plus Clahe. So you can see the dissimilarity index and the boundary distance. The performance improves when we have both contrast stretching and Clahe compared to just Clahe or just contrast stretching. Except for the boundary distance, it's slightly worse in the contrast stretching plus Clahe than in the contrast stretching alone. Okay, but dissimilarity index is better. Now, performance evaluation of regression segmentation with second data set. The second data set had totally 13 sagittal images. Out of them, 9 of them were used for training and 4 of them were used for testing. Okay. So there were 23 vertebrae of 9 original spinal image and its 5 blurred versions, blurred with standard deviation of 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0.8 and 1. Thus we had totally 1,242 images, cropped images. And when the testing was done on the trained data, that is the same 1,242 cropped vertebrae, the dissimilarity index was 0.9260 plus minus 0.0282, and the boundary distance was 0.7035 plus minus 0.2007. That 0.207 is the standard deviation. Now, when we tested it on the test data, that's on the test data, it's a 23 cropped vertebrae of 4 originals and its 5 blurred variants. We got a dissimilarity index of 0.8927 plus minus standard deviation of 0.0425 and boundary distance of 0.9880 plus minus 0.4250. So the performance is slightly worse when we applied it on the test image rather than on the train image, which is naturally expected. So on the whole, if you look at it, the dissimilarity index is pretty good and the bounding distance is also not too large, boundary distance. So our approach for finding the boundary points using the boundary regression by the MSVR method works really well. So in conclusion, in this work, all the boundary coordinates are regressed simultaneously. Segmented spinal bones can be labeled from top to the bottom easily. This helps to reduce the effort for the doctors to locate and study the vertebral images in axial view. In our work, we have used limited number of images of 13 individuals only and also reduced number of features and modality compared to the paper 1. With lesser number of images in training and reduced features, it is able to predict boundary accurately, and we got comparable results with the one in paper 1, which is more computationally expensive. So this is a robust system, and this regression model is able to regress the boundary accurately even for highly blurred images. Now the future work. So this method is experimented on the sagittal CT plane images, spinal images. We can also use MRI images instead of CT images, and also both CT and MRI images together. Manual method of cropping can be eliminated by automated methods using YOLO. YOLO is stands for you only look once. It is a system for finding various sort of objects in an image, and it puts bounding boxes around the various objects and says that with this probability it belongs to this particular class of objects and so on and so forth. Which objects of different scales and orientations and all those things. Or TDCNN is Transformed Deep Convolutional Neural Network, followed by SVM. We can also use SSD, single shot detection, for this purpose. Now TDCN is deep network which consists of the feature learning unit and the multimodal transformed appearance learning unit. TDCN will extract invariant features of the image, and SVM classifier uses these features for detecting the vertebra region. So this is the future work. Once we combine these two, we have a perfect system for human vertebra segmentation and labeling. So these are the references. This paper is mainly based on the first paper. Thank you. It's over. It got over in just 50 minutes. So if you have any questions, you can ask.
Thank you, Professor Abraham, for your session.
Sir, I have a question.
Okay.
Yes,
This TDCN network, no? So this is used for feature extraction, right? So
it's not used just for feature extraction, which is used for detect segmentation. Or
okay, segmentation.
Okay.
So it's also doing the optimization part also, or no, only the segmentation?
It mainly finds bounding boxes around the objects of interest.
Okay, sir.
Just like YOLO and SSD.
Okay, then you are giving the feature, giving that to some SVM classifier or any other classifier. To
the MSVR regressor. Once that, first we use YOLO or SSD or this TDCNN to find a rough boundary or a rectangular region which containing this particular vertebra. Once you have it, we can crop it, resize into 32 by 30 and apply the MSVR method and get a very accurate boundary for the vertebra.
So is there any other network which can used for only feature extraction?
Feature extraction, we don't use any these sort of TDCNN or like YOLO or SSD. This is basically we use HOG, GIST, and SIFT. So they are standard procedures in image processing for feature extraction of images.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Since we have some time, you can directly ask him questions one-on-one. Are there any questions?
Hello. One my question, sir.
Yes.
As a age expansion, why pain is created in L1 and L2 vertebra?
The green one is the actual manually annotated boundary, which is called the ground truth, and the red one is actually the predicted one by the MSVR. So there's a close match between them.
In mechanical perspective, how to think about this?
Could you please repeat? I couldn't hear it properly.
In mechanical aspect, how to think about this?
How to
thought about
शिवराम जी
सर,
आप क्वेश्चन हिंदी में पूछिए, मैं उसको ट्रांसलेट करके देता हूँ.
सर मैं कहना चाह रहा हूँ टाइम एज बढ़ने के बाद वो L1 L2 में दर्द क्यों क्रिएट हो जाता है, ये क्या रीजन है?
एज बढ़ने के बाद?
हाँ सर, जैसे मान लिया 30-35 साल के बाद जाने के बाद L1 L2 में सब प्रॉब्लम क्रिएट हो जाता है यदि एज ए बैचलर लाइफ।
हाँ मैं उसको
ड्यूरिंग द स्टडी
पूछता हूँ। हाँ मैं उसको पूछता हूँ। Sir, he wants to know after a certain age, like 31 or so, why that L1, L2 segment has increased pain or something like that. So, have you any experience detailing such medical related knowledge?
Oh, that I don't know. But maybe if we have enough sufficient training data for and sagittal views of people across all ages, and if you train it on all of them, then this boundary regression will work really well for all the age groups. I don't know the medical part of it. I don't know.
शिवराम जी, आपका उत्तर मिल गया कि नहीं? शिवराम जी?
See, excuse me.
Yes.
Okay. Can I add on to something?
Sure, Dominic sir, you may.
Yes, sir, please. Yes, sir, please. Yes, sir.
The importance of this work is to find out whether there are any defects, if there is any broken rib or broken vertebra. It can be possible to number these vertebrae and see the details in the axial images. So that is the advantage. So as the age goes up, there can be deformities. Even those deformities can also be detected.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, you are used in the manual cropping here in the vertical segmentation here, no? The first part.
Yes.
So you told that the YOLO and the transformal decision can be used for automated cropping. Is the same technique can be used for pathology also?
Pathological case also, yes. If you have enough training data which covers all these cases, then it will figure out on its own.
So that YOLO will automatically identify the morphological shape and all, no?
Yes.
Is it medically proven, or sometimes the doctors are saying that this YOLO-like object detection may identify some other which is not medically proven, etc. Is it medically proven or not, or just for academic purpose or not?
Basically, the manual cropping is not the right way to go. So we should have some automated means of doing the initial cropping. So we haven't tried it out yet, but we will try it out. YOLO, SSD, TDCNN, and so on. We have to do that.
Oh, okay. So we just have to give this training data into that algorithm, and it will automate all this.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Anybody in the participants, if you have general doubts on signal processing, Professor Abraham is the right person. He can make use of this time now.
Dominic sir can also help.
Yes, Professor Dominic is also here. Sorry to miss him out.
Hello, sir.
हाँ, बताइए शिवराम जी।
सर, मैं क्वेश्चन करना चाहता हूँ, ये दर्द से रिलेटेड जो इसको हम मैकेनिकल इंजीनियरिंग के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से कुछ सोच सकता हूँ क्या इस क्वेश्चन को?
हाँ, यही उसने बताया। ये मैकेनिकल रिलेटेड वो क्वेश्चन आंसर नहीं कर सकते, क्योंकि प्रोफेसर अब्राहम सिग्नल प्रोसेसिंग के आदमी हैं। जो सुबह वो डॉक्टर आया था, शायद वो उसका उत्तर दे सकता था।
ओके,
तो हम आपके क्वेश्चन उसको पोस्ट करते हैं, तो जो आंसर मिलेगा हम आपको अपडेट करेंगे।
थैंक यू सर। थैंक यू
शिवराम जी। So I hope that there are no further questions in this session. It has been very informative. session from Dr. Abraham Thomas. We, on behalf of the coordinating committee, thank you for it.
Yeah.
And let's join. Yes, sir. In parting words. Okay, so let's meet after afternoon for the session after this, the third session that will be handled by the MTech student. She will be demonstrating a project on signal processing again. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Abraham, sir. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, everybody. Let's join afternoon session. We'll take a short break.